Hello, Brother Monroe here, and welcome to the first in a kind of little mini-series in anticipation of the campaign coming out. So I am recording this on Alpha version 76, so you may well find that you're using a more recent version of Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, but I'm going to try and keep things quite generic and quite broad in this explanation of how to build ships in Ultimate Admiral. And we're going to start with the most important lesson, the kind of golden rule of shipbuilding, which is you have to know what you're building your ship to do. And some ships are, sure, ship classes are good at some things, and some are really not. So I'm just going to go through the basic ship classes, what they can do and what they cannot. So, first of all, let's start with the smaller ship. This is the destroyer. Now, there is also the torpedo boat earlier on in the campaign. Torpedo boats can only do one of the things that destroyers can do. So destroyers, I'm just going to get the AI to auto-design a ship for me, which is going to take it a million years. This is kind of one of the things destroyers can do. This one has a lot of guns. And this is something that torpedo boats cannot do. Destroyers with lots and lots of guns, they are brilliant escorts. They're very good at keeping enemy destroyers away from your more important ships, because they can throw out lots of small caliber, in this case 4 and 3 inch shells, just to keep your enemy destroyers away. Because if they get straight too close to one of these things, it will mess them up. And as well, the way the AI targets things, it tends to target the closest ship with all of its weapons. So you will find that the enemy destroyers will launch their torpedoes at your destroyers, and your destroyers, being generally quite fast and nimble, will be able to avoid them. Or, if not avoid them, at least eat the torpedoes so something more important doesn't. So that's one of the things destroyers can do. I wonder if the AI will do it for me. No. One of the other things you can do with a destroyer is, rather than having lots and lots of guns, you can have lots and lots of torpedoes. Now, this type of destroyer, this is what you would use to attack enemy capital ships. So you approach, you get in range with the torpedoes, you fire them off, and you pray and hope that they hit. Disposable kind of ship, probably not going to live very long, and you send them in on an attack in the hopes that you get some torpedoes off. Maybe it just causes the enemy to break up their formation, but that's the other job that destroyers can do. So destroyers, they're very good escorts and screens, and they're also very good at kind of suicide attacks with torpedoes. And that's kind of what you want to use them for. Right, next, the light cruiser. Now, light cruisers are a very interesting type of ship. I'll just get the AI to build me one. And this one has built a kind of jack of all trades type, although I don't like the placement of those torpedoes. Move them to here. So this is very similar to a destroyer. This is an escort, and in this case, this is also an attack ship. So, again, very useful for heading out in front of your more important ships. For dealing with enemy destroyers, this thing is pretty much immune to enemy destroyer fire, and with those 7-inch guns, can absolutely wreck destroyers very, very quickly. In fact, with 7-inch guns, she might even be able to damage other cruisers quite effectively. And carries torpedoes, so can force enemy capital ships to keep their distance, because they don't want to get too close to all the torpedoes this thing can spew out, basically. So light cruisers, much more survivable than a destroyer, much more capable than a destroyer, but much more expensive. So you can see this thing cost me 23 million, whereas the modern destroyers are coming in at more like 10. So yes, a light cruiser is very, very good. but compared to a destroyer, but at kind of double the cost. One thing you will be able to do very soon in Alpha 9 is to have a single light cruiser leading a group of destroyers, and I think that will be quite an effective tactic. Next, we have the heavy cruiser, which comes in the kind of middle of Ultimate Admiral. Ooh, that's a really interesting design the AI has picked. Now, heavy cruisers are in an interesting position, and again, this is quite an interesting ship that's rolled up. Lots of 9-inch guns. Heavy cruisers are basically perfect for wiping out enemy escort ships. They can take a hit from a torpedo because they can fit anti-torpedo belts. This one even has anti-torpedo 5. They can mount 9-inch guns, which I actually think are perfect for killing off enemy light cruisers and destroyers. They can fit a bunch of secondary guns. This one has absolutely tons of them. And they can fit torpedoes as well, just to give them a little bit of threat against larger ships. They are a much bigger target, though. So if these things draw the attention of battleships in particular, they're going to have a really hard time. They are, however, very nice ships, and you can up armor them. I don't know what they're reasonably well armored. They're reasonably well armed, and they're a really nice kind of middle ground ship. And if you're going for an all-purpose ship that can threaten anything relatively effectively, then a heavy cruiser is kind of your go-to, in my opinion. You can see this one costs about 40 million, so again, double that of a light cruiser. So they are an investment, and not really. You can use them as a screen, but they're kind of. I would prefer to use light cruisers and destroyers as a screen. Heavy cruisers are kind of a more of a. In the campaign, I kind of see you wanting to operate a squadron of maybe 3 of these things, and that would be absolutely perfect for attacking enemy convoys, because they can deal with the escorts pretty easily, and they can absolutely murder transports in no time at all. Next up is the battlecruiser. Now, the battlecruiser is a little bit of an odd child. Oh no, that's hideous. Design me something reasonable, please. Okay, there we go. Now, they can pretend to be battleships. This thing has 15-inch guns. That's pretty nasty. They can actually threaten battleships. It can add loads of secondaries, making it pretty good at dealing with enemy light ships. They are very, very fast. This one can do 36.5. Pretty decent overall. Their weakness is they are not particularly heavily armoured, and I would generally treat them as big heavy cruisers. In fact, you can see here we actually have the large cruiser hull, which is a type of battle cruiser. And these things these are very, basically I would consider them as up-gunned heavy cruisers. They're multi-purpose ships that are best employed as bullies. Battle cruisers are bullies. Now you can see they cost about 60 million each. These ones, I'm looking at the 1940 text, by the way. So they are more than a heavy cruiser, but they will cause heavy cruisers a lot of problems. So again, I can see in the campaign maybe taking one battle cruiser along with a couple of heavy cruisers being quite a nasty little unit to go around raiding enemy convoys, sinking enemy cruiser squadrons, things like that. But do not make the mistake of thinking that this thing, even with its 14-inch guns, should be going anywhere near a battleship, because a battleship will eat it for lunch. And speaking of which, we can move on to the battleships, and I'm going to pick the enormous super battleship just to see what the AI does with it. Oh, okay, there we go. Now, battleships are the biggest, largest, and most dangerous ships you can get in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. However, they get quite expensive. As you can see, this one costs a fairly impressive $161 million to build. They can be fast. They can be incredibly heavily armored. This thing has a 17-inch belt on it. They can mount very, very scary guns. This one's got 16-inch guns, but these are the things that you can mount, effectively mount the massive 18-inch guns on. They are very, very accurate because they're so big, they don't roll around. They've got loads of secondaries to protect them from lighter ships and so on. They can have... This is your kind of ultimate ship. But, and there is a but, they do tend towards the big side, and they do tend towards the target side of things. Yes, they are very, very dangerous. Yes, they are very, very well protected, or at least you can build them that way. But they're most vulnerable to destroyers, I would say. So it kind of goes round in a circle. So, you know, $160 million worth of destroyers, that's quite a lot, given that they were like... That's you know, that's a sizable number of destroyers coming at you, firing off a lot of torpedoes, and even with this one has anti-torpedo 4, you will find that this is tricky, and that battleships will struggle against hordes of lighter ships, so they need escorts. So this is where you need your light cruisers and your own destroyers to protect ships like this, and that of course adds to the expense. So battleships really are an investment. They are the coolest ships in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, and of course the name of the game is Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. So you will end up wanting to use Dreadnoughts. I'll go and grab a Dreadnought 4. Here we go. And wow, it went with one of those weird American... Oh, that's a really nice looking ship. These guys are your go-to smashers. You can anchor a fleet around them, and these guys should be leading your attacks on enemy fleets. Not convoys. That's battle cruisers should be attacking the convoys. Battleships are for attacking enemy fleets. And driving them off and killing them where possible. So don't go overboard, because these things are very expensive. You do not want to be losing them. And certainly once you get to the Dreadnought era ships, they remain effective for quite a long time. Like even a Dreadnought 3 can be a surprisingly effective combatant even in the 1940s, although not if they give them 14-inch guns. Don't use 14-inch guns. So yeah, there is the golden rule. Make sure you know what your ship is for, and make sure that you don't send it into situations that it wasn't designed to deal with. Of course, if you're fighting custom battles, you know exactly what you're going up against. In the campaign, though, you're not going to know, so it's very important to know what your ships are able to do and what they are not able to do. Anyway, I hope that's been a useful kind of look at kind of my most important rule when it comes to building ships in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. I hope to see you again very soon for another sort of mini tutorial video, and as well, you can find links to my Twitch channel and my Patreon down in the description of the video below. I do lots of Ultimate Admiral content. Come check it out. Anyway, thanks very much, and bye-bye.